What's up, gamers? My name is Justice3D117, and with Reveiw's strategy classic Swords and Soldiers being re-released on the PS3, I thought I'd go back and review the wiiware version in its original format. First up, there are 3 different types of sides you can choose in this game: Chinese, Aztec, and Viking. They all have their own special moves, spells, and units. First up, the Aztecs. They're a mixture of the magic powers of the Chinese with the strength of the Vikings. They have some really cool spells, such as possessing everyone else's units. They also have a fairly overpowered unit called Sun Gods that we'll get into much later. Next up, the Vikings. They're the strongest units in the game. They have the most health and do the most damage, but they're a bit underpowered in terms of spells and stuff. I didn't really play as Vikings much, but they're a good beginning class. Oh, and the Hammer of Thor is legendary, and it's probably the best final spell in the game. Finally, the Chinese. They're probably the most numerous units available. They have the best spells, one of them which can multiply units, and the sort of expert class, you could say. Onto the gameplay. Swords and Soldiers is a 2D side-scrolling strategy game. It's a nice mix of genres, actually. I would say it's probably the best example on any console, but it's no means perfect. It has a very polished exterior, but they don't really even out the different races of warrior. It's a bit, well, let's just say the Aztecs are pretty much the best unit in the game, and that's annoying. They get Sun Gods, they get Mind Control, which controls another unit, and the opposing side's unit, and so they're kind of a cheaty class to play as. But they definitely throw up the most innovative parts of the game. Necromancers, for instance, summon dead units as skeletons. That's just a genius example. And the mind control, though really annoying I feel on the opposing side, is so satisfying to use on against the other team, especially if they have Sun Gods themselves. Other examples of innovation in this game include ninja monkeys and the story itself. The story is all about a pursuit of a giant mind-controlling pepper. Now, that doesn't sound too good, but when it's spread across 3 different campaigns, for instance, Vikings have to fight against the mind-controlling pepper, trying to destroy it as it possesses their units. Now, that makes for a very interesting variety of gameplay. So, in some campaigns you'll be trying to save the king, or it makes it just a better game than it has any right to be on wiiware. And this, if it was released as a full game, it'd still be as good as it is now. Now, onto the spells. There's a good variety of spells, actually. There's spells that sacrifice units, spells that cage the enemy, and then there's the kind of meg spells that take up loads of XP. For Chinese, it's a dragon that throws flame at enemies. For Vikings, it's that Hammer of Thor I was talking about earlier. And for the Aztecs, it's the Boulder of Death, which you might have seen earlier in the video. Boulder of Death is sort of hard to control. The Chinese dragon thing has such a limited health and makes it not useful. So the Vikings spell is probably the only good spell, really. Or mega spell, I could say. But, yeah. Also, the Viking spell features the turn of the Mr. T4. Now, in the new Thor movie that's coming up, I want him to definitely be played by Mr. T, as Jib Jabber is just suits full, just like the way in which Tobey Maguire fits Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Now, you might have noticed that in my last review, I did a sort of gameplay graphics thing. I didn't want to do this for this review because the graphics are really good, the gameplay is really good. Yeah, I'd say I'd have to be really positive about everything, and that's not what I want to do, you know? I don't think this game is good enough to, like, me give it a really positive review. Yeah, I thought the Aztecs were far too overpowered. Seriously, they just have too many spells and sign goals aren't fair. I thought the Chinese were a bit too overpowered as well. Like, they just can summon so many units. That's not really fair. Aztecs shouldn't be in there really. It should just be Chinese and like Vikings. Vikings are too underpowered as well. So it's a very unsatisfying game if you're playing with Vikings, you know. But for all other units, it's massively satisfying it. And yeah, I think you should definitely get this. It's 1,000 Wii points or PSN points, and it's one of the best games on wiiware, if not the best. So I decided to give it a 8.5 out of 10. This is Justice 3D117 signing off.